Want to solve with this reorganization, and what difference, if any, do you think veterans will experience firsthand?
Well, Grace, good morning. It's good to see y'all again. The best part about this is the veteran walking into one of our hospital or clinics this morning is not going, even in the next few months, is not going to see the direct difference in the care. What they're going to get is better care. What they're going to be able to do is get better answers quicker for our staff so that we can organize better, schedule better, do the things that we need to do better, to do the one thing, then one thing only that we do is take care of veterans. So I think the thing that people need to understand is that over time, our system grew up in a bureaucracy that became really unwieldy. And when I've been out over 28 states plus over the last little bit, visiting all kinds of hospitals and clinics in our system, what I kept hearing is the folks who are on the ground doing the work could not get good, straight, quick answers from anyone above on what they need to do. So we said, you know what? This is opposite. It shouldn't be about the support system that becomes the main thing. It should be about the tip of the spear, which is our hospitals and clinics being the point of entry and being the main thing we do. So we've reorganized it where our hospitals and clinics are the tip of the spear. Everybody else supports them instead of the other way around.
Last week we opened the show with the five. Doug Collins' voice, I told you guys the five gives me a headache, like right here, right? Doug Collins' voice gives me a headache, like right here, which is the entire part of my brain. That's VA Secretary Doug Collins, former congressman from Georgia, also completely full of shit. You see, here's what's going on. Doug is on a tour of right-wing media, desperately trying to spin the fact that when he got caught cutting the VA dramatically last year, or beginning of this year, excuse me, and there was such a backlash by members of Congress on both sides of the aisle, backlash by veteran service organizations, backlash by advocates like me and my friends and gentlemen's gonna be on our show. He backed off that, and then he said, "Let's do this different. Let's do this different." Okay, they said we're gonna do stealth. What we're gonna do is we're gonna go in, we're gonna put in a hiring freeze. So all these positions have been left empty, critically empty. For example, where I live in St. Louis, Missouri, they're critically short nurses, critically short nurses, but they put a hiring freeze in. They could not. They said there wasn't really a hiring freeze for those positions, but talking to people inside the VA, you're going to learn they have actually not hired anybody. And then they made the conditions. Oh, but then they introduced a early retirement DRP or something. My guest can tell you about that. So then thousands of people said, "F it, I'm out of here." So then they left. Still got a hiring freeze. Now more empty positions. Then they said, uh, we need to right size. We're not going to cut these positions. We're going to make the environment here so toxic. You're going to have to report what you do every week. We're going to have you, just the 1,200-mile screwdriver, keeping track of everybody, right? Then they've created new clinics and didn't staff them. Over and over, they made decisions that forced more people to leave the VA. All the while lying about stats, lying about, oh, we shortened wait times on the processing of benefits. Well, that's fine, but that was going down already. So then this is what they did. This is the really ugly part that we're all complaining about, and that he's trying to spin, is they decided to cut those empty positions, 30,000, 35,000 or more empty positions, saying, well, these were COVID era positions and they're admin. No, it's a lie. Here in St. Louis, they lost 55 nursing positions that have been vacant. And they're literally saying, well, these positions have been empty for a year, so we must not need them. It's overhead. And that's why that lie at the beginning. You remember the first part we said? I'm going to go back to it. I'm going to make you watch this first part. Watch this.
Do you want to solve with this reorganization, and what difference, if any, do you think veterans will experience firsthand?
Well, Grace, good morning. It's good to see y'all again. The best part about this is the veteran walking into one of our hospital or clinics this morning is not going, even in the next few months, is not going to see the direct difference in the care.
See what they did there? Oh, he's not going to see a difference. We didn't cut any people. We cut positions that were desperately needed. And what veterans are seeing is longer wait times to get appointments, months on end to get in. We're seeing doctors leaving, not being replaced. So, Doug, you see the spin there? I want to really highlight that spin. This is Doug Collins' superpower. Magical bullshit, where he spins something so obviously blatantly a lie. Sure, they cut empty positions. So, a veteran, he's not going to see any difference because those positions have already been empty for a freaking year. But I'm getting reports. So this all came to a head last week. I was one of the first people to hear about it. A dear friend of mine who works in the system frantically started texting me because she had received notice of all the positions within her mental health care system that she supervises to the tune of hundreds of jobs. I got word later that something like 250 mental health and social worker positions just in the Hampton, Virginia system which is a huge largest concentration of veterans in America. They lost 250 empty social worker and mental health positions. Now you tell me, was that overhead? Was that, too much supervisors and not enough at the tip of the spear? Bullshit, man. Mental health care workers and social workers are the tip of the spear, the ultimate tip of the spear. And we've already got a shortage of them nationally. And this son of a gun cut more of them. And then it goes on TV to lie. But he didn't get away with it. We raised the alarm. Washington Post raised the alarm. Congress is raising the alarm. There's your friend, Chris DeLuzio.
Tens of thousands of VA jobs all around the country are being cut. Democratic leaders are pushing back against the action.
So this is an internal document to VA Pittsburgh showing plans to cut 481 positions at VA Pittsburgh. I'm sure there are documents like this at VA facilities and regions all over the country. And this own internal memo says very clearly, and I'm quoting here, it was determined that it will be impossible to continue all services with this reduction in headcount.
You heard that? It'll be so he's right. Chris Luzio's in Pennsylvania. I've got the memo from St. Louis. There's an IG investigation of 2024. And here in St. Louis, they said we are critically short nurses and veterans will suffer. This is just 2024. And a year later, Doug's cut those positions. So it's not just here. You saw DeLuzio has got the thing. Here's Senator Patty Murray of Washington.
I have never, not once in my life, talked to a veteran who thought the problem with the VA healthcare system is that it has too many staff, or they were able to get an appointment or medical test done sooner than they wanted. As most people know, the problem is often that there are not enough providers and staff, and that it takes far too long for our veterans to get the basic care they need. This administration has already pushed 30,000 people out of VA, and now Trump and his VA secretary are suggesting the way to help veterans get care is to stop even trying to fill tens of thousands of open positions. Are wait lists going to grow even longer? Will veterans fail to get the care they need because of this decision? Is this an elaborate ruse by the Trump administration to push more veterans into already overloaded and more expensive private care at the expense of VA facilities? We need answers now.
There we go. That nails it right there, doesn't it? I like that because it just gets right to it. Is this simply a stealth privatization? That's the big question of the year. Now, we know there's obvious signs. When VA submitted his budget, there was more money given to community, what they call community care. And so they're going to sell you, and there's veterans that like community care. For example, look, I live in St. Louis, Missouri. We've got world-class teaching institutions here, medical facilities. They're great. I use TRICARE. I'm a retired Army officer. So that you understand that it means I have basic health insurance paid out of my retirement check. I pay for it, but that's because out of my check. Now imagine you're a veteran, so in Pelosi, Missouri, or Potosi, or Hannibal, or further out in the state. Cities you've never heard of, like Mexico, Missouri, or Cuba, Missouri, where there isn't a hospital anymore. And they say, well, we're going to put you on community care. Well, there's no community care, right? Understand that when they put more money into community care, sure, there's going to be veterans that like it who live in LA or New York, where there is maybe medical health assistance. But many veterans live in healthcare deserts, and the only thing they've got is the VA. But they don't care about that. What they care about is privatizing, in my humble opinion. So we got a lot to talk. I know it's the holiday edition. You're thinking, oh man, Fred, this is kind of heavy for the holidays. Yes. Look, I got nothing to tell you. It's true. Because you know why? What kind of a happy holidays are we having when veterans are sitting in the entire United States is losing their health care? And I want to tell you that, in a week, millions of people are going to lose their health care. Okay. Well, veterans aren't immune to it either. What these guys are doing is dismantling the one system with 9 million veterans getting their health care from it. So they can privatize it and give more money to the private sector. An already overstretched private sector. And the reason I bring this up now is literally millions of Americans will lose their health care and their insurance is going to go through the roof in a week. At the same time, they're going to send more veterans into that system. Do you understand that they're creating a train wreck? And this wasn't started today. So I'm thrilled that I've got Paul Sullivan, who his bio is as long as this sheet of paper in front of me, who's been a veterans advocate since Jesus was a corporal. And he is out there fighting for this stuff. And Paul has been kind enough to join us here on a holiday week to sit down with us and talk about these issues, why the VA exists, why it needed improvement, and why it's horrifying what's happening to it right now. So it's going to be a great educational conversation for a Friday night after Christmas. Relax, grab a cup of coffee with some liquor in it, hopefully. Got my Santa mug. So with all that said, I'm Fred Wellman. This is On Democracy FP1 right here on the Midas Touch Network on Friday night. I'm so glad to have you guys here. As you know, we produce the shows ourselves. It's amazing. I'm so glad you're joining us. If you're hanging out with us live, if you're watching over the weekend, if you're listening in your car, whichever way, hey, let's talk about veterans healthcare and what it means for us as Americans and why we all need to get together and fight back. So let's get on with the show. Look, I got my Santa mug because, it's the holiday season. We're going raw. It's great to have you guys here with us. I hope a lot of you join. If you're not, what are you doing, man? Why are you skipping the show? That's not cool at all. So anyways, we're back. It is Friday night, as always, here in the Midas Touch Network. I'm thrilled to have great guests, as always. I'd love to bring him on. Paul Sullivan. I'm looking at 3 decades of veterans advocacy, starting from grassroots with fellow Gulf Reds in 1992. If you remember the Gulf War, which I'm a veteran of as well, Paul's is focused on VA care and benefits. He's a former executive, GS-14 manager at the VA Central Office in Washington. He just recently left Bergmann Moore, veteran out. Paul, your bio is ridiculous. Welcome to On Democracy. Welcome to Midas Touch Talk. It's great to have you here, my friend.
Thanks, Fred. It's always good to have us Desert Storm veterans pop up.
Gen X representing, man.
With that lost generation, again, the what Gulf War, it's still going on.
It was only 4 days. What the boots? Yeah, it was a bumpy 4 days, wasn't it? So it's good.
Oh, yeah, that.
Welcome aboard. Well, you saw the intro, brother. You see what's going on. This is what brought us together. You and I were exchanging text messages. The reason Paul's on the show, you guys, because we blow each other's text messages up every time something happens in the veterans world. And Paul's been studying this for a while, but in a lot of ways, Paul, this was coming for a while. I guess for those who don't know, people don't understand the VA system. Think it's just a hospital system. I started the larger picture, I suppose. The VA as a system since Vietnam, since Gulf War. Talk about the VA, how we got here, and the bumpy road that took us to this moment, and then we'll talk about this moment. Does that sound good?
Sounds great, Fred. Everybody likes to follow the money, right?
Right.
This is all about money.
Okay.
The privatization of VA care, the privatization of VA benefits, this is all about money. Okay. Why is VA a target for billionaires to steal government money? Pretty simple. Well, in 1990, the VA budget was $29 billion a year. It's now $440 billion a year.
Jeez.
That's a 15-time increase. Okay. So the biggest part of what VA does is disability benefits. Most of VA's budget, more than half, pays veterans for disabilities related to their military service. The veteran doesn't have to be totally disabled. A veteran can be partially disabled and still receive some benefits. Now, why is there a disability process that pays out more than $200 billion a year? It's because a veteran has to file and win a disability claim against VA before that veteran gets the coveted free VA healthcare.
Right.
So it's the bureaucratic system that's backwards from the civilian world, where you go to the doctor and then you let the paperwork sort itself out later.
Right.
Or VA, a veteran has to file a claim, win a claim, get the disability benefits, and then go to VHA, the hospital system, and enroll to get the free care.
Yep.
So huge changes, especially under Clinton and then Obama and then Biden. First, under Clinton, a great guy named Ken Kaiser decided to take VA hospitals out of just the big cities. And he created more than 1,000 clinics. CBOCs is what they're called. Okay? And that allowed VA to see more veteran patients faster in the suburbs and the rural areas where the veterans live.
Yep.
That's called economies of scale. When there are more patients for more types of conditions, then VA can provide a wide array of different types of care.
Yep.
So Ken Kaiser and President Clinton, they get credit for that. Then under Obama, the science came in from the Agent Orange Act of 91 and the Persian Gulf Veterans Act of 1998. Those two laws mandating research. Then the published scientific evidence says that deployment to Vietnam and other places where there was Agent Orange dioxin, it increases the risk of conditions like brain cancer, prostate cancer, and a whole bunch of other stuff. Okay. Now, with the Persian Gulf Veterans Act, the science shows deployment to a war zone increases the risk of PTSD, post traumatic stress disorder, and other mental health conditions. So, what's that happened under Obama? Okay. Huge opening. Then Biden put the frosting, the candles, and the parade on the cake. Happens. The PACT Act of 2022. That law opened up the door for Vietnam veterans, Gulf War veterans, Iraq War veterans, Afghanistan War veterans, and veterans who were places like Tooele in Greenland and Palomares in Spain and Johnston Atoll in the middle of the Pacific receive disability benefits from VA that would then open the door to free VA care. So now we understand it's science, 35 years of current war in Southwest Asia, right?
Yeah.
That's why VA's budget has grown.
And tell us, as you talked like, yeah, and so, you know, I talked to a lot of civilians who don't understand. Like, Fred, what's the big deal? Why do veterans have to have their own health care, right? It's like they don't understand. It's like, what's the big deal about going to a civilian doctor? You're like me. I'm a retired Army officer. How come I go to a doctor? But I'll tell you what I experienced. They don't get it. They don't understand.
You are so right.
Right, and that's really what it is, right? Is that people not look, we always try to say veterans were not special, but we do have unique things. And I'll give you guys an example for me. So I always use an example. I have a sampling of one. I literally just discovered I'm 60 years old. I discovered I've had this weird hip pain for years, very bad hip pain. And I finally found a doctor after years of trying, after back surgery and others. I still, after back surgery, had this weird hip pain in my right butt. I'm going to say it right there. You know what we discovered is that the muscle, the piriformis muscle goes across that hip has been damaged. And there, and it's tendonitis essentially. And the funniest thing happened, the doctor says, "Hey, did you ever a job where you like sat a lot and you twisted?"
Yeah, you were an officer. Oh, sorry.
Well, no, even better. Even better. You see this thing right here? You see this thing right here? Okay. When you fly these things, you're sitting with your right arm twisted across your leg and you're wearing body armor. So joking aside, the job of flying helicopter screws up your back when you're wearing body armor and you're sitting, you're twisted. So I think I tell people that's a unique case. It took me, if I probably gone to the VA, they would have figured it out, right? That in a lot of ways, that's the issue, is the VA doctors they hear your job. I hear this all the time from my friends. I go to the VA doctors. What'd you do in the Army? Oh, I was an artilleryman. How's your hearing? Can you hear me? Exactly, right? I mean, they get that. That's a good way. That's a very simplistic way to say it, but that's the issue, is that VA understands the unique challenges we face from what you mentioned, chronic exposure to toxic chemicals to sitting really freaking weird in a helicopter seat, right? That's the issue in it. We do need specialized care.
Oh, I'll give you another case example of one, and that is when I was at one of the most prestigious university medical centers in the country, not to be named,
Plus America.
and I mentioned, yes, I was at Camisea where there was sarin, and the doctor looked at me. What's Camisea? What's sarin?
Yeah.
And I'm like, that prompts a 20-minute discussion.
Yes.
And now when I go to VA and you say, "Oh, hi, are you familiar with Gulf War illness, Camisea, sarin exposure, mustard gas?" They're going to go, "Oh, yes. So what type of neurological challenges do you have?" And I go, "Let me list them."
Right.
So
For civilians, let me get that. Camisea was a huge bunker complex that we and all of our smarts decided to blow the hell up. And it turned out it was where in 1991 mustard gas and sarin gas was stored. It created a huge, by the way, Paul, I wish I'd remembered that. I would have brought it up. I have a wonderful picture of the mushroom cloud from under it, which is why my Apache platoon leader got all the Gulf War. I mean, he came back with the Gulf War syndrome, and so, so for those, so you understand, civilians, they've been tracking millions of us, thousands of us, I guess, who were near the explosion that they blew when they blew up that place. I mean, you should have seen the mushroom cloud. It was incredible.
yeah, I was there.
Yeah, you know the deal. And so that the point of that is these doctors understand that we were exposed probably to the remnants or ash that has to do with thing. I, for example, was exposed to sulfur gas. Why? Up in where I lived in northern Iraq during OYF-1, the sulfur mine caught fire. And so for a week, we were actually wearing our gas masks to protect us from sulfur fumes, which Turns out it doesn't work. So, we see things, veterans who are in combat, they are exposed to things that the average civilian doesn't have to do.
Now, you want a fun fact, Brett? Ready?
Sure, I love fun facts.
Okay. On October 1st, the United States Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, and the United Nations World Health Organization, WHO, officially recognized Gulf War illness as a condition related to toxic exposures during Desert Shield and Desert Storm in 1990 and 1991. So,
We have 30
any Gulf War veterans listening out there, yes, the government now admits it's real. The exposures are real. The illnesses are real.
Right.
And you can go to VA and get care for those things.
So here we are. We come in. There's two, let's set the stage in two ways. One, what we thought was going to come, and what is actually happening. So you were one of the first, Paul, and your colleagues at the Veteran Policy Institute talking about here's what's in Project 2025 that's going to impact veterans and veterans healthcare. I mean, there was some. They told us. They wrote it out. I did videos on it for those who've been watching me. And by the way, for those who are still, thank you. And two, so you guys did quite a bit. And I don't have the slideshow to show. But there's a whole slideshow you sent me. So tell us what you were worried about in Project 2025 that if Trump got a second term was coming.
Well, billionaires don't like to pay taxes.
That's a fun thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Billionaires, they're greedy. They don't believe in the social contract, except maybe Bezos' ex-wife, right? And she's giving all her money away, but that's the anomaly. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, with this $440 billion VA budget for the year 2026, the greedy want to feed at the trough. And what they want to do, the billionaires, the Republicans, Trump, Secretary Collins that you showed at the beginning of the show, that's who they are. Republicans, Trump, Collins. They want to first make VA not work. How do you do that? You start firing people. You start hiring freeze. And you went over all that in excellent detail. And as a result, right now, what do Americans and veterans need to know? There are 70,000 fewer VA employees helping veterans now than there were on January 19, 2025. Is that slowing down care? Yes. Is it slowing down claims? Yes.
Yes.
Is it going to hurt veterans right away? Well, here's one of the little crafty things that Project 2025 and Russell Vaught and the Heritage Foundation are doing. They're slow rolling it.
Right.
So that the impact isn't right now, it's in a couple of months or in a couple of years.
Right.
So let me give you the dollar amount. How much do you think that VA has publicly bragged that VA wants to privatize from VA spending to the private sector to make greedy billionaires even richer? Pick a number.
$1.5 billion. Trillion.
You're $1 trillion.
Jesus Christ.
And the Trump
Sorry, it's Christmas. I said that.
at VA posted it up on LinkedIn. I took a
Right, just this week.
Yes. It's $1 trillion transfer from dedicated, trained VA employees providing care that's often specialized for veterans to the private sector. And the private sector is 1, greedy, 2, profit motivated, 3, slower, and 4, has worse health outcomes. Here's something that's important to know. Veterans who get care at VA live longer.
Yes, that's a fact.
Okay?
Studies show, these are studies, folks. We're not
Yep.
making this shit up. There's multiple studies showing it.
Stud-
There's also studies showing that veterans who go to community care for mental health have worse outcomes. There's more suicidality in those because, frankly, you and I both know. And look, if you're a civilian watching this, I know have you tried to get a mental health appointment with a psychologist, a psychiatrist, or a counselor? It's hard. I've had to wait weeks. It takes months. The civilian system is no better. My favorite part is when a fellow veteran says, "Well, VA sucks. I went to the emergency room. I waited 8 hours." I'm like, I fell down my effing steps here, Paul. So, before the election, I admit it freely. I'm running down the steps trying to get this video. I literally headlong down the damn steps. I got picked up by my fiance, God bless her, Heather, had him come get me. Guess how long I spent in the emergency room in St. Louis, Missouri? 6 hours. Exactly. They're awful. It's like, that's not how it is.
Santa mug that you were.
Nah, as I should have. I would have been, No, I ended up falling. Look, I fell on my head, and it's hard, so we're fine. But we digress.
Stairs? Did you hurt the
There is okay. So this is completely off topic, but yeah, there literally is a streak on the wall from my head. That's how hard my head is. Anyway, we are digressing. Wait a minute.
This thing about your veterans is when my daughter tripped and fell in the driveway one time. I said, run in the house and get a Band-Aid. And then we looked around for the strawberry patch, and I said, okay, put the Band-Aid on the driveway.
Yeah, did you damage the driveway? What are you doing? We just fixed that wall. Yeah, this is a great spot to take a break. We got a great sponsor this week as always, dupe.com. You still got more shopping to do. Dupe's the place to do it. We'll be right back. You guys, I know I told you about dupe.com for a few weeks now, and I love this site. And now that I'm doing the holiday shopping for my kids and grandkids, it's saving me so much pain. I say this because I know you have had the experience where you found the perfect gift for your bestie online and your kids, and the sticker shock reminds you it's out of reach for your already stretched to the breaking point wallet, right? And that's why I use dupe.com. It's simple. Just type dupe.com / for any product URL, and Dupe instantly shows you similar and more affordable alternatives. It's perfect for finding the best deals for your holiday shopping this year. And these aren't those like knockoffs you see on some questionable corners of your town and the internet. I've been to those places. The truth is, most of these products you see online, from furniture to fashion to gadgets, are all mass produced in the same factories. Brands just slap on different labels and markups. Dupe finds those same pieces for way less, so you're not going to overpay for just a name. That style and quarter zip, perfect desk, that comfy chair, Dupe finds them or something nearly identical for, well, a fraction of the price. So it's no wonder, frankly, that Dupe has gone viral on TikTok, which I spend a lot of time on these days. Millions of people already use it to save thousands on furniture and decor and clothes, sometimes 60, 80%. And it's all completely free to use. That's why I like it the most. So this holiday season, Dupe is giving away 1 million Dupe points. And you can turn those points straight into gift cards. And here's how it works. You earn Dupe points by shopping with Dupe. No payment, no catch. Just search the products you want, save money, rack up points. And if you want more, you could share Dupe with your friends. And they save, you earn points. And that means more gift cards for both of you. So here's the kicker. For a limited time, the first 10,000 people who go to dupe.com / Fred, you see the screen, will get 500 Dupe points instantly. So they're redeemable for gift cards. There's no catch. Spots are limited. Don't wait. That's dupe.com / Fred for 500 free Dupe points today. You can use those Dupe points and get gift cards. Make the most of all of your holiday shopping this year. So try it out. I tell you, you won't regret it. Just go to dupe.com / Fred. I see on the screen. I appreciate you guys. I hope you have a merry, merry holidays. Try it out. Thanks. And we're back. So, yeah, falling down the stairs. But so again, here we are with the healthcare system that in many ways, the science shows that the outcomes are better for veterans within the VA system, that the VA system does work for veterans. It is what it is. So,
Yes.
so here we are trying to and look, the one thing I say, Paul, a lot, and I love your opinion, is I tell people when I talk about, because I was a veteran, for those who don't know, I was a professional veteran advocate myself for 10 years with my company. And the one thing I tell people is, when you've met a veteran, you've met a veteran, and experiences may vary. And now, look, there's what, 15 million of us left, about 9 million in the VA system. You're going to see on social media this guy saying, VA sucks. They never gave me my claim. And you can have guys like me when I went in for an upgrade last year, because after the PACT Act passed, one of my soldiers from Desert Storm reached out and said, dude, you've got to do this, because he had cancer. He said, you got to go in. So I went in, I did it all online, and I put in for PTSD, which I'd never put in for PTSD. It turns out I found out years after I left the Army that I may have an issue. And I got a call from the guy at VA, and he said, hey, I'm a sergeant. I used to be a sergeant. I read your claim. He went through every line, how I'd screwed up some paperwork and got it fixed for me, and then told me that I'd gotten an interim decision on my PTSD. And then he literally, and here's what was touching to me, Paul. He literally says, hey, I've read your file. I'm sorry that happened to you. I'm sorry that happened to you, Colonel Wellman. He said, Colonel Wellman, I'm sorry you had to go through that, but thank you for your service. And that was very validating and important to me. So the VA, for me, has been a very positive experience. It's been very supportive of my needs and validated what I thought, mattered. And so I tell people, so you're going to see, like, we're going to get comments on here, I'm sure. It's like, oh God, VA sucks. My cousin's brother's uncle said that he tried to get Agent Orange and didn't get it, right? I mean, but we're talking satisfaction rates in the 80, 90%, aren't we?
Oh, 90% and higher. Oh, you ask, how did I get started in veteran advocacy?
Yeah.
is I went to a VA in 1992 after seeing a show that says, oh, if you're one of these Gulf War veterans and you have, respiratory problems or skin problem, come and see us. So I called. I said, what do I do? They said, bring your DD-214. I show up at the counter and there's like a nice GS4 or 5 right at the counter. Nice young woman, right? And she looks at my DD-214 and says, oh, you're not a Gulf War veteran. We can't help you. And so I rolled up my sleeve and, it says Iraq on it. But okay. And I said, what do you mean? She said, well, it doesn't say Desert Shield or Desert Storm or Iraq or Kuwait or Saudi Arabia or Persian Gulf or anything. It says service in SWA.
Ah, that's
how right. So it took 26 years of fighting the claim system for VA to finally recognize my military-related medical problems. So does VA suck? Yeah. Does government bureaucracy suck? Yeah. But you want to know something? Here's what Project 2025 wants to do, and it's in their plan. Project 2025 said, let's show that there's fraud at VA.
Right.
And what happened? Heritage Project, Daniel Gade, and a couple other people gave a few cases of fraud and made it look like these hundreds of billions of dollars were just being given to veterans as an honor system. Come in and say you got a stub toe, we'll give you $1 million.
Right.
Okay. Here's the facts I want everybody to know. The fraud rate at VA is 0.005%. In other words, 1 over 20,000. Okay. If you go into a 7-Eleven, it's 10% or higher, or your average clothing store, right?
Right. That's the shrinkage you face. Yeah.
Almost no fraud, waste, and abuse at VA. But Project 2025 will have you think that veterans are scamming the system and that the VA doctors are slower and that they don't care. That's part of their propaganda. And so let's start at the very beginning. You asked this question, Fred. How did Project 2025, President Trump, Doge, and VA Secretary Collins start attacking veterans? Well, it was what we call fire twice, never rehire. At first, VA fired 1,000 people, no reason given. Then 1,400 people, no reason given. Then, as advocates scratched the surface, we saw that these were new hires and new promotions.
Right.
So the first thing you want to do, right, is get rid of anybody, and here's the hard part, that may have been brought in by President Biden near the end of his administration. So anyone that anybody with a year or less in their current spot could get fired. Okay. As we mentioned, I want to make sure everybody understands the number. We're at 70,000 out of more than 420,000 VA employees who've been whacked in the last year. Yes. So that's the first stage, is firing people, the hiring freeze that you mentioned, then don't fill in those positions, and then wave Hermione's magic wand and say, oh, all these positions disappeared.
Right.
Well, I can tell.
Nothing to see here. Move along. Move along. Yeah. Everything's fine.
I can tell you from going to VA, which is where I get my care because I'm retired, that veterans are seeing the delays.
Oh, yeah.
They're in the care and in their claims. And when you've known VA employees long, like I have and worked at VA, and they start talking to you, Paul, the morale is terrible. Okay. Yeah. What else did Trump, Collins, Doge, Heritage Foundation, Project 2025? That's the list of the bad guys. What else did they do? They busted the union agreement.
Yep.
Okay. Then they kicked all the union officials out of the VA buildings. What does that do? It again undermines morale, because how can an employee report delays or other problems with care when then union folks are gone? Then what else did Trump and Collins and Doge and whatnot do? They got rid of the VA Inspector General's office and put in a person who is highly partisan with no experience as an Inspector General. So now the employees who want to report fraud, waste, and abuse and problems caused by Trump and Collins They don't have anywhere to go except Congress and reporters. So let's dial this all back. We're looking at a very intricate plan drawn up by people with two goals. One, they want to make rich billionaires richer. And two, they want to dismantle the New Deal. The New Deal goes back to Roosevelt and the GI Bill near the end of World War II. And it set up a social safety net structure of healthcare, disability benefits, unemployment benefits,
Yep.
no down payment home loans, and a whole bunch of other benefits for veterans so that we would not fall into poverty after we got home from the war.
Like, demonizing is the key. And I mean, I don't want to lose that, because what makes me sick, what makes me so angry about it is what you said earlier about that painting this fraudulent picture. They have to do something that nobody ever dreamed, especially Republicans. Let's be very honest. Uh, they have to make us bad guys. It is the whole key to this is somehow dividing veterans against each other, demonizing veterans, like that, hence the fraud, the guys with the sleep apnea. The effort here has to entail making those of us who served our country with a social contract that said I would be taken care of for the rest of my life for my service in some form. They have to make us freeloaders and bad guys, in my humble opinion. And am I crazy when I say that? I mean,
Just
you
or
know,
or 100% right. And here's why, Fred. Okay. It's like the horrible racist, sexist welfare queen attacks
right,
from the Reagan administration.
right.
The Republicans who want to make rich people richer, okay, because that's who their donors are, they want to attack VA because VA is working.
Right.
VA was finally fully funded, finally fully staffed. It started with Clinton and then Obama and then Biden. New science, new research, new healthcare, new benefits, right? Veterans happy with VA? Oh no. Republicans do not want that because they do not want any form of nationalized healthcare. And VA is the shining example on the hill. Yeah. Have there been problems in VA? Sure.
Sure.
Do private doctors get sued when they chop off the wrong leg? Yeah, they get sued when they chop off the wrong leg. That's what medical malpractice is for.
Yeah.
The difference here is that VA is under a microscope compared to the private sector.
Yeah.
Okay. And yeah, so veterans, we are trying to hold the ground that we conquered, right? With improving VA, and we do not want to see it. We do not want to see it destroyed. And so here's the next shift is the privatization. What does that mean? Well, there's two parts of VA that are getting privatized. First is the healthcare. VA, faster, friendlier, more comprehensive, better health outcomes. It's less expensive. Contrast with the private sector. It's more expensive. It's slower. They're in it for the greed and not for the veterans' care. Okay. It's disjointed. It's fractured. Okay. So which makes more money? The private sector. Which is more efficient? VA. So, we got to make sure folks know that. That's on the healthcare side. The more expensive and the bigger dollars are in the benefit side. VA is pushing the privatization of veterans' benefits by attacking the veterans organizations who provide free assistance for claims. Now these companies are elbowing their way in and pushing their way in, okay, to charge veterans $5,000 and $10,000 or more to help a veteran file their claim. Remember, veterans filed claims with VA to get VA care. Now there's a profit motive attached to this, not by the veteran, but by a greedy company who's put a target on the back of a veteran to steal that veteran's disability benefits. Because what happened? More science and 35 years of war show that there's long-term health effects of being in the military. And now the private sector wants to pick veterans' pockets, steal money out of our bank accounts, and rob money from the taxpayers of our disability benefits. The fraud in the system isn't from veterans, it's from companies who want to make a fast buck on veterans. So that's what Project 2025 is all about. It's pushing
All right.
capitalism, and veterans are going to suffer.
That's it. And
Okay.
I like focusing on VA. And so for folks watching, like, there's a lot of veteran stuff, right? It's truly the model, right? That the reason I talk about VA especially is what something Paul said that's very key. This was a system of essentially socialized medicine, if we're being honest, that works. And it's seen as an enemy to those who want to go a profit motive.
Mhm.
So VA in many ways, folks, I see it as a canary in a coal mine, if you will, or example of this is why they can have a target. It's hard for them because, as I said earlier, it's veterans. And look, both sides of the aisle love veterans. I mean, it's just, which I appreciate. It wasn't always that way. And I'm humbled by it as one of those veterans. But by the same token, if we're worshipped and well liked, we're not looked as the good guys at anything for veterans, like so many people say, how do you do that? And then you get some really malign and malevolent stuff to dismantle that system. And they have to do it quietly, they have to do it carefully, and they have to use somebody like Jug Collins, who's smiling. This is all, I trust Newsmax more than I trust the Washington Post. The Washington Post story that broke this had 17 sources within. I personally have the IG report that talked about these shortages. Anybody asshole can get it. And so to see Collins go on TV and smear the reporters and those of us like you and I, Paul, who are sounding the alarm, that's the plan. So I guess the thing I like to leave the show on every time, Paul, which we should wrap it up because it is the holidays. Everybody in the show always asks, our wonderful audience asks, how can I help? Like, what can I do? So do you have any recommendation for what, especially because look, the folks, this is just like any situation. Veterans only represent about less, I think we're down below 7% now. So 6% of the population total. And those who serve is only 1%. You hear that number a lot. But you're talking, there's 9 million veterans or so in the healthcare system of the VA. There's about 15 million of us living veterans. That's it. So we need help from y'all? We need help from civilians. Your friends and family need help. Paul, how can the average person who watches the show help us, help veterans, help stop this madness?
Well, I'm going to start with the easy ones. First, register. Second, vote. Obviously, Democratic, because the Democrats are friends of veterans.
They are.
Great.
They have been. They've shown it.
The other things to do are to make sure that you're educating your friends about how VA is improved. VA is working.
Yep.
And how dare anybody cut back on VA? Now, I'm going to slip something in here. Watch this, Fred. We care about what Project 2025 and the Heritage Foundation and Trump and Collins and Doge and Musk and all their attacks on VA. Well, there's 4 more major attacks that are coming. And I'll just read them to you real quick off my screen.
Okay.
The first is means testing. What that means is if a veteran makes, for example, more than $40,000 or $50,000, VA will cut off your benefits. What? No.
Yeah.
No. These disability payments are for injuries and illnesses related to military service. Next thing, age testing. Guess what? You hit 62 or 65, you retired, you start getting Social Security. Guess what? They want to cut off your VA disability benefits. You're like, what? No. These payments are for a disability, not retirement. Okay. Third thing, tax increase. The Republicans want to levy a tax on veteran disability benefits. Right now, they're not taxed. So let's say a 100% disabled veteran gets about $40,000 a year in disability benefits. Well,
That's
that's 20 or 30% back to the government. Right off the top, the veteran will lose all that money. And
Nobody's getting rich. I want to stop there too before we get to 4. Folks, you heard that number. I'm 100% disabled. It's $3,900 a month. I know that's a lot. That's enough, especially for some of our lesser well-off or less well-off sisters and brothers. That keeps them from being homeless. It keeps them alive. This isn't millions of dollars. They're going to spin it. Oh, it's a lifetime of $1 million. Yeah, if you get it when you're 21, okay. But the average veteran is not even making $40,000 a year or so. And the 100% disabled, how much is it, Paul? Less than 10% or 100% disabled of veterans. Folks, this is a minuscule amount of money per veteran. They're going to make it sound like we're all getting rich on this. This is not a ton of money. So now you're going to tax it. Number 4, Paul.
And the last one, and these are proposals supported by Republicans and issued by the Congressional Budget Office. The fourth one is what's called rating testing. And that is if a veteran is rated 30% or more, one option is that VA will give you a lump sum and then you're done. No monthly payments. Or VA just won't pay you anything at all because your disability is too small. We don't want to tie you up with giving you $100 or $200 a month. Let me tell you something that's real important here. These 4 CBO proposals are nickeling and diming veterans, and these are disabled veterans, okay, who need the VA disability money to pay the rent, to buy food. Remember, they're trying to put their kids through college,
Yep.
well, pay the utility bills. This is not a handout. These VA benefits are for veterans hurt, injured,
benefits.
ill due to military service. So while we've been talking about these huge attacks by the far right, basically to kill VA, which is terrible, okay, there's even more and highly more severe. Come on, help me out with a word, Fred, here. More draconian cuts.
Draconic, malevolence.
Malevolent, malicious, yes,
Yeah.
attacks coming against veterans in VA. So stand by, register, vote Democratic, share with your friends that VA is working, and Trump and company, they're lying. They want to make VA look like it's falling down so that they can privatize it for their billionaire buddies.
All right, Paul. That's a perfect place to end. I can't thank you enough for joining us here on the holiday week.
And that's
Sorry,
everybody.
Say look, you gotta do the cat. That's great. No worries. We gotta get the cat in. So, man, Paul, thank you so much for meeting to get the show. I love it. That's the perfect timing to have the cat join the show. We are a cat-friendly show. So, for hello, cat. Paul, thanks. I'll see you soon. Thanks for joining us Friday night here on the Mindset. I hope you're having happy holidays, with your families, and we will get you back again, talk about more. In the meantime, stay safe out there, and thanks for joining us.
Happy holidays. Thanks, Fred.
Great conversation, my friend Paul. You can see there's few people who know this better than Paul. He has read in, it's all in his head. It's hard to pull it out. I hope you enjoyed, I hope you learned something today. That's my biggest thing. But we were just talking, the key here is they just announced last week, in the midst of all this, the intent to outsource to the tune of $1 trillion. Can you imagine the health insurance industry, the big health conglomerate, hospitals and others, doctors organizations, $1 trillion to be handed out for the federal government for veterans? And they're going to wrap the flag around it. They're going to tell us how it's good for the veterans. We just love our veterans. Nah, man. They loved our veterans. They had helped the system that was working. Fact is, over 1 million new veterans got benefits and health care because of the PACT Act. That's why the employees went up. That's why the time to get your benefits approved went up, because so many flood the system. And to their credit, the Biden administration under Secretary McDonough got that on the path to success. And all that Collins and his idiot crew did was hop on the skis halfway down the mountain and claim success. He keeps talking, you saw that clip at the beginning. We've got 22 clinics we've opened. They didn't open those. Those were built under Obama and Biden. They're built under Biden. Sorry. Over the last 4 years, they just opened. And fair fact, the one in Fredericksburg, Virginia, where I used to live, because of the hiring cuts, it's still not manned. So that son of a bitch Collins is talking about how they're helping veterans. The new clinic he's boasting about just in Fredericksburg, Virginia, just outside Washington, D.C., for all you elected officials, just drive on down the highway to Fredericksburg. You're going to discover a clinic that's barely manned because of Doug Collins. He's a liar and a fraud. I'm saying that right here. $1 trillion, 70,000 veterans cut. Virtually no fraud whatsoever in this system. Just watch how they talk about us veterans, folks. They got to make us look like the bad guys to make this work. You'll see it. Anyway, not the most jolly topic, but it's the day after Christmas, not day before, so I can be less jolly on that. I appreciate you so much being here with us on Friday night. Thank you so much. Always. We'll be back again next week. Why not? Something more to go. Don't forget our sponsors, dupe.com and others. We appreciate all you. Thank you for being part of this community. I guess this is our last show of 2025. Holy cow, how'd that happen? What a year it's been. You guys know I'm on a journey of my own, separate from this. You can learn about that, more about that at our Substack, fpwellman.substack.com. Please subscribe to that. It's free. Can't beat it. Can't beat the price. It's free. If you want to do a subscription, I'd love that, but you can read everything we put out there. It's a great way to keep track of my other work that I'm doing out here. In the meantime, thanks for being part of the On Democracy family for a year. It's been a year of transition for us in many ways as the Trump administration's come in. I started this year off wondering if I could keep doing this. I'm so proud to be a part of the My Sector. I want to thank my dear friends, Brett, Ben, and and Jordy, who keep me on board, are wonderful sponsors we've had this year. This is such an opportunity for a guy like me. I'm not like the other cool kids on the channel. Look at me. I'm the advocate. I'm not. I asked the brother. I might be the oldest creator on the show on the network. Seniors unite. Gen X baby. But if I'm not, that's okay too. But I just appreciate you all being part of this. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I guess we'll see you in the new year. In the meantime, I hope you're having a wonderful holidays with your family and friends. Hang in there, folks. We're not done yet. The fight's still ahead of us. We're doing it here. Join us every Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, and we'll be keeping on. Again, Fred Wellman, thanks.